Potter.
Scottie B going to work in the paint.
Eastern Conference Final. New NBA champion. And it's a team from Toronto, Canada. We, the North, are now we, the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? What is going on? It is Luca here, back with another Raptors Nation podcast on this Thursday, December 14th. Hope you're all doing well. This podcast coming after the Raptors' latest victory over the Atlanta Hawks. And we are going to talk about some storylines, not necessarily about the game, because I did go in detail about the game in last night's video. But in this one, I wanted to talk about Scottie Barnes playing like an AllStar. Also, we're going to look at some Raptors trade rumors. I'll give you the latest about what's been circulating when it comes to trade season. And the unofficial start of trade season is here. December 15th, that's when free agents who sign with their teams in the NBA offseason are officially eligible to be traded. So we're going to talk about it. We got a busy show on this one. Before we get started, do me a solid, everybody. Hit a like on the video. It does help it a ton. Please subscribe to the channel for more Raptors content over here on the Raptors Nation YouTube channel. Also, you can find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. And always leave your comments down below. The Raptors, they get a much-needed win. I mean, this was a team that was spiraling out of control, losers of 6 of 7, 4 in a row, and they beat the Hawks, who aren't good right now. So the Raptors, they get a dub. They're going to be taking on the Hawks once again on Friday. So this is an opportunity for the Raptors to kind of right the ship here, build on good habits, and maybe build on some momentum moving forward. I mean, beat the Hawks again on Friday, and the Raptors will be one win away from that pizza party or that dinner from Darko Rajakovic. But I wanted to talk more specifically about Scottie Barnes, guys. Scottie Barnes is looking like an all-star. He was absolutely phenomenal in the game against Atlanta. I know Siakam had the game high 33, but Barnes had arguably the best game. I mean, you just look at Barnes' numbers all around. Unbelievable stuff. 27 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, a block shots, 11 of 14 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, 2 of 3 from the free throw line, the defensive impact. And this is what Barnes has done. Scottie Barnes continues to be a difference maker in every facet of the game. He continues to stuff the stat sheet. And, you know, you look at these numbers, and it's just amazing to see how far Barnes has evolved. I mean, this was a guy that we weren't even sure could hit the three consistently, could hit his shot consistently, and be better than a 50% shooter from the field. We didn't know if Barnes was going to be a consistent 15 points per game type player. Now Barnes is averaging numbers that are looking like all-star numbers. I mean, over his last 5, Barnes is averaging 23.8 points, 9.2 rebounds, 6 assists on 59% shooting, and 44% from 3 on 6.4 attempts. That is just unbelievable, guys. And then you look at Barnes's stats for the season. He's averaging 20.1 points over that 20-point per game mark, which is awesome. I remember I wrote an article on RaptorsNation.com talking about if Barnes could get it to 18 points per game. And here he is getting it to 20. He has taken that lead. His rebounds, 9.1. He's almost averaging now a double-double, 5.6 assists, 1.7 steals. I mean, Scottie Barnes is flirting with triple-double numbers now, it seems, game to game. And it's just been unbelievable to watch his development, his growth. And you look at Scottie, guys, he's only getting better. Obviously, this is a guy the Raptors are not going to part ways with. Shams said he's an untouchable. Raptors clearly view Scottie Barnes as the future, as the cornerstone. And it's just refreshing for us fans to see that Barnes is looking the part. He is looking like the guy who can be an all-star and be a huge part of your team's success going forward. He's going to be one of the biggest pillars, if not the biggest pillar, in the Raptors' future. As, you know, Barnes continues to leave his fingerprints all over the game. And it's just his execution in late game situations that continues to get better, showing that he does have that dog in him, his ability to turn it up a notch in the fourth quarter, make big plays late. Even in this one against Atlanta, I touched on it in the video yesterday, but just to have the wherewithal of making right decisions. And, in this one against Atlanta, late to ice it, Barnes got the key bucket, took it upon himself, and then made a couple of nice passes to really get the Raptors out of danger when the Hawks were pressing. So Barnes just continues to see the court at an all-time high. He's making the right plays. Obviously, there's things he's got to clean up. Sometimes, he has the uncharacteristic turnovers, but all in all, he's seen the floor well. He's shooting it well, and he's playing well. And that's all you can ask for if you're a Raptors fan. And it's funny because Kevin Pelton kind of got this all-star talk going. I mean, we saw the numbers and we knew, okay, if Scottie keeps this up, he's going to make the all-star team. But Kevin Pelton went the extra mile, and he recently made his way too early NBA all-star game selections on ESPN. And he actually has Scottie Barnes as a starter for the Eastern Conference. Now, that is the ultimate praise. I mean, he has Barnes as a starter over Jason Tatum. Now, my reaction to that is, thank you, Kevin Pelton, for believing in Scottie Barnes and actually giving him some attention that he deserves, because I don't think the national media is talking about Barnes nearly as much as they should. But then my other kind of reaction to it is, I don't think Barnes is going to be an all-star game starter. I mean, if he somehow does start over Tatum, like, that would actually be really crazy. But I do have Scottie Barnes making the all-star team definitely as a reserve if he keeps up this type of play. So, I mean, what do you think, guys? Is it far-fetched that Pelton has Barnes as an all-star game starter? Is there a pathway there? I just think with Tatum, you look at his numbers, he's having a great season. And then obviously you look at the Celtics, they're the 1 seed. Voting is obviously going to have a big say in this as well. But I do think, yeah, Tatum's going to start, but I see Scottie Barnes being a reserve, definitely. And I mean, he's going to deserve it, especially if he continues to play at this high of a level. Scottie Barnes has definitely looked like an all-star for this season. All right, next, let's talk about the Raptors trade rumor. So, as I said, the unofficial start of trade season, December 15th, which is tomorrow. And I mean, it's never too early to talk about big trades. And the Toronto Raptors are believed to potentially be a major player at this year's trade deadline, or just in terms of making trades, period. Because we know the deal. The Raptors, stuck in the middle, haven't committed to a direction. They have OG Anunoby, who's going to become an unrestricted free agent. I mean, he's going to decline that player option and set himself up for a huge payday. Siakam, set to become an unrestricted free agent. You got Gary Trent Jr. as well. But the two main players, the key players that are already gaining a lot of interest from other teams looking to contend this season, OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. And Shams recently put out a piece over at The Athletic, and he revealed that 3 teams could be interested in Toronto's 2 key players, and believes that Siakam is more likely to be dealt than Anunoby. This is what Shams said the other day. Teams such as the Atlanta Hawks, Sacramento Kings, and Indiana Pacers are expected suitors for Siakam or Anunoby, but believe Siakam appears to be the likelier player to be dealt, league sources tell The Athletic. Now, there has been so much buzz going around. Shams saying this, then Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated recently spoke in a recent episode of the Crossover podcast, and he said that the Miami Heat are a team that could have interest in Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby, saying, I would expect the Miami Heat to be aggressive. Maybe that means a Pascal Siakam. Maybe that means an OG Anunoby. That's someone I don't think they'd hesitate to pull the trigger on, because you could re-sign those guys if you're Miami. And then, according to Action Network's Matt Moore, he said this: my understanding currently is that the Raptors are likely to build around the combination of Anunoby and Barnes, and that Siakam will likely head somewhere willing to pay him this summer. That's the next complication. And then he went on to say that executives continue to be skeptical that the Raptors will make a deal after so many close calls. We'll see if they go through with it. So The trade rumors, I mean, they're not going away. They will not go away. The Raptors, I know they won, but they've still been struggling. Let's call it for what it is. One game doesn't fix things. 2 wins is not going to fix things if they end up sweeping Atlanta in this mini 2-game set. The Raptors trade rumors are going to carry on literally up until the trade deadline, because this is a team that I do see them just continuing to be rocky, inconsistent, this up and down team. I don't think they're going to separate themselves from the pack in terms of being a team that's going to continue to run this thing back and feel good about it. With the inconsistency, the Raptors are going to have teams calling them about their players, and the Raptors are going to have to make a decision about, okay, how do we honestly assess this team, and what's the next move? What is the direction of this team? Are you going to trade Pascal Siakam? Are you going to trade OG Anunoby? Are you going to trade both? And I agree with Matt Moore. If I had to guess, I would say the Raptors are going to keep OG Anunoby, pay him, pair him with Scottie. Those are the guys you're building around. And then you trade Siakam for a big haul. And, all arrows are pointing to Siakam being the guy to trade, because you just look at it from this perspective. I mean, Siakam, yes, he and Barnes have been putting together nice numbers together, and it resulted in finally getting a win the other night. But both players too redundant. When you look at a Siakam, he's going to want his max contract, and he's a guy at this stage of his career, 29, turning 30. He's not looking to be a part of a rebuild, or at least I would think he wouldn't want to be a part of a rebuild or a slow-moving process. He wants to win. He can help a team get over the top. He can be a very capable number 2 option, even a third option on some of these other teams that have 2 stars. And, you just look at it from the perspective of the skill set. OG Anunoby's skill set better complements Barnes, and we've seen it. OG Anunoby is a great 3-point shooter, something that Siakam hasn't been able to do. I mean, not including the game against the Hawks, but Siakam hasn't been able to hit the 3 ball. And OG Anunoby plays solid defense. And OG Anunoby's still at that age. I mean, 26 years old, still, hovering around that prime time age of his. And he would definitely be a nice fit alongside Barnes if those are the guys Toronto is willing to build a team around. So that would be my guess on all of this. I mean, the trade rumors are going to come in hot, and clearly Siakam and Anunoby are both going to get a lot of interest. I mean, the Hawks, take them for example. They just got beat by the Raptors. That was a team that Shams actually said recently came close to getting a Pascal Siakam deal done. And that would be a team that makes perfect sense of trying to go for Pascal Siakam, because you look at the Atlanta Hawks, they're in win now mode. They made the big trade for DeJounte Murray. They have Trae Young. That's a team that's not looking to start over. They're too far into this thing. They got to go for it. They got to make a win now move. They got young assets. So would they be willing to put together an even more compelling package and trade for Siakam, a guy who could help the Hawks the whole time? I know the Hawks have a lot of defensive issues and they got their own problems, but I think the Hawks are missing a big piece, and maybe that piece is Siakam. You got the Indiana Pacers. That would make a lot of sense. That team's looking to take the next step. I mean, they're already a team that has risen. Halliburton looks like an all-star. He's been playing unbelievable basketball. Siakam next to Halliburton. That would do wonders for the Pacers and potentially put him in that next echelon in the Eastern Conference. I mean, look at what the Pacers did in a small sample size in the in-season tournament. They were able to beat the Celtics and Bucks and then fell short to the Lakers in the finals. So having a guy like Siakam could put them over the top. And then Sacramento makes sense too, because they finally got their first taste of the postseason. They're looking to take the next step, and Siakam would help that team a lot. Pair next to stars in De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. So there are going to be a lot of teams interested. Those teams I just mentioned make a lot of sense, and those same teams make a lot of sense for OG Anunoby as well. Teams are always in need of a dependable 3-and-D player, and OG is arguably the best. The trade rumors, they're already heating up. They're going to continue to heat up. They're going to get stronger. I wouldn't be surprised if more teams enter the mix. Maybe a Dallas is rumored to enter the mix. That's a team that's gotten off to a hot start. Kyrie's hurt, but they're obviously looking to go all in and try to compete for a chip. Siakam would make a lot of sense for them, even an Anunoby as well. So the Raptors have these two very good players that would make a lot of sense for most teams and would be a really good fit on most teams. Now you're probably asking yourself, Luca, why can't they make it fit here? Why can't this work in Toronto? Because the Raptors are a classic example of they got a lot of talent, but it's just not the right fit with each other. For as much as people, want to believe that Siakam and Barnes can work for the best, I honestly think the Raptors are going to have to commit to one and trade the other. I'm all in on the idea of, pairing Barnes with OG. But unfortunately, I don't think you can pair Barnes with Siakam long term and be successful. I think the Raptors have to commit to one in Barnes and trade Siakam for a huge haul of future assets, role players, future picks, basically pieces that are going to complement Barnes and his current game and also give you some pieces that can develop over time for your future. So, yeah, the trade rumors are intensifying. We'll see if more stuff comes out as we enter the new year, but that is the latest from a couple of sources. Shams putting out his piece. Obviously, Chris Mannix saying his bit, and then Matt Moore of the Action Network in reaction to the Shams piece that came out, giving his opinion as well. So I'm going to end on this. Will Toronto make a deal? I already gave you my bit. If I had my say on things, I mean, Scottie Barnes is your cornerstone. You're keeping him. I would keep OG, and I would trade Siakam for a big haul. But does that mean management is going to, in fact, do that? No, because you never know what management is thinking. And like that quote I read to you earlier, I mean, executives continue to be skeptical that the Raptors will make a deal after so many close calls. That's the Raptors in a nutshell. It is very 50-50 with this front office. And even Doc Rivers said it too on his appearance on the Bill Simmons podcast the other day. He believes the Raptors are headed towards a rebuild, and he believes the Raptors are going to trade both, if not one of Anunoby and Siakam. And he said, you never know with Masai. It's going to come down to the last second. He's going to squeeze as much juice as he can out of that orange, and he's going to get the most value back. So we'll see if Masai ends up putting together something, because this is a Raptors team that's been rumored now for a couple seasons to make a big splash leading up to the deadline, and then nothing happened. So we'll see if that's the same type of story that plays out here. But I will say this. I think this season is different because the Raptors need to have a plan. You cannot have both of your key players enter unrestricted free agency with the possibility of losing both. I mean, they did it once with Fred. And if they somehow were to do it again with Anunoby and Siakam, like, that is just absolutely disastrous from the front office. Inexcusable, unacceptable. So you would think they learned the hard way, their lesson with Fred, and they won't make the same mistake twice, and they will have a plan to proceed with. Because at this point, I hope management knows what they're doing. I hope they have a vision of, okay, we're going to definitely keep Barnes. We're not trading him. He's untouchable. We're going to keep him with Anunoby, but then we're going to trade Siakam. Because I think what this front office shouldn't do is keep both Anunoby and Siakam and pay both of them big contracts. It's one or the other here. And it could potentially be both. And I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to that either. If the Raptors can land huge hauls for both players, it's something worth considering. But at the very least, you got to trade one or the other. And the most likely, as these latest rumors have been suggesting as well, and what I've been suggesting, is trading Siakam. So we'll see if the Raptors front office does do that, or if the Raptors are going to go on a 10-game winning streak and make all these trade rumors disappear. I mean, that has been the theme with this team. Looks like once they're ready to hit rock bottom, they go on a run, and then they just continue to run the course on the treadmill. And I hope that's not the case here. So we'll see if the Raptors finally do pick a direction. We'll see what they do with Anunoby and Siakam. Like I said, there's going to be a lot more coming out, but I wanted to do this today because we are in the unofficial start of trade season, which does begin on Friday, December 15th. So that is going to conclude today's show. But Raptors Nation, let me know your thoughts to all of this. Do you think the Raptors should make a big trade? What do you think is more likely? Do you think the Raptors are going to trade Anunoby, Siakam, both? What do you want to see this team do? But I think we can all agree on one thing, Raptors Nation. Scottie Barnes is the guy in Toronto, and he is undoubtedly the future of this team. Now it's about how the Raptors are going to set things up around him going forward. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Hit a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Again, you can find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, over here on YouTube. That is it for me. As always, thank you so much for watching. This is Luca signing off. I will catch you all again in the next one. Until next time, guys, stay safe.